So when you did the outward bound trip, you probably had backpacking equipment
Oh yeah, we had.
and all that stuff.
Yeah, we had ropes, carabiners,
So when you ran your first trips, what did you give the students for gear?
blanket, and a pocket knife.
Just a blanket and a pocket knife?
Yep.
They get a can or a cup or a.
Well, we made those in there. We had a little daily class at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of made those things in that class.
Okay. And what?
We
which
did it
things
a lot
would
of
you
different
make?
ways. That was one of
Oh,
the ways
okay.
we did it.
Okay. What was an example of how you would have done that? So you start out with a blanket and a knife.
Yeah, a pile of tin cans,
Okay.
some wire.
Mhm.
They call them billy cans in those days.
Mhm.
They were those big
Number 10 can.
number 10 cans with a little wire in them,
Mhm.
punched in the side. And that's all they had. And their food pack, we gave a small food pack. And they used, well, let's see, we did give them ponchos to begin with. BYU insisted on it. They thought they'd freeze to death or get wet, get too cold or something. So we did have that.
Would you have preferred not to have ponchos?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Tell us why.
Because where we were going, there were a lot of rock shelters.
Mhm.
I knew we could put them in one every night. And we did. We hardly used them. But through the years, as we expanded and went to different areas where there were no natural shelters, then we'd issue them a poncho. And they became pretty popular. Became standard,
Mhm.
along with all the other rules and regulations that came about.
And how did you deal with water?
Illegally. Giardia was a big scare. And they wanted us to use the iodine, the heavy bug killer in the water. Put it in our tin cans and let it sit for 20 minutes before we shake it up and drink it. And we were just saying, no, yuck. But we did have some people getting Giardia
Mhm.
that didn't put their iodine in it, So finally, somebody came in to me one day and says, have you ever tried aerobic oxygen? And I said, I didn't know what it was.
Mhm.
It comes out of Canada. You can sell it in Canada, but you can't have it in the United States. But this guy had a source for it, and he bought it through the mail, and then he sold it to me. And we tried that out there, and it worked perfectly. Nobody ever got Giardia if they had that in their can. Nowadays, people just drink it, a few drops of it in the water that they drink.
Mhm.
They do that every few days, and it keeps you from getting it. You know about it?
I do. Yeah, I've heard it called a placebo, and it's the best placebo I ever met.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it worked.
Now,
But now they don't use it anymore, I don't think.
and no water bottles on those early trips,
Well,
or did you have
some of
canteens?
them we didn't have water bottles.
Mhm.
If they could keep whatever they could find along the trail,
Mhm.
they'd end up with tin cans and little milk cartons,
Mhm.
all kinds of stuff, because you can't avoid that junk out there.
Yeah.
And that's one of the rules that says if you find it out here, use it. And that's why we allowed that. Sometimes there's a little envy when somebody finds a really good cup or something. Paper cups are premium.
Mhm.
They pack water in them, all day.
Yeah.
Yeah. But things got streamlined when it became more of a business, and a lot of other people trying to help make decisions. We finally had a board of directors, and they gave us a lot of guidance. But each time we'd have these improvements, I would see us being chipped away from the real experience.
Mhm.
The real hand-to-mouth Stone Age experience. That's what I dream about. That's what I envision it as having been,
Mhm.
knowing full well that in actuality they had some other things in there with it.
Mhm.
Something made out of plastic or something made out of steel, or
Yeah.
you know.
So realistically, you can't do that real Stone Age experience legally with young people.
Legally, you can.
Right. So
Yeah.
so what is it that we're losing? Because there's something that to be gained by going more Stone Age. There's more safety and security maybe in being modern, maybe.
Yeah, a little bit.
So what is it that we should be aware that is maybe lacking as we move towards the more modern?
I think the more prepared that our trail walkers are, the closer they can get to that. They can opt to not use a pocket knife to whittle down a digging stick.
Mm-hmm.
They can do it the right way and end up adding that Stone Age element to whatever else they're doing, so that the kids get a real sense of it. Move it backwards from there.
Tell me the right way to make a digging stick.
Find the right wood, which in Idaho is greasewood.
Mm-hmm.
Down here it's different. It's 4 or 5 different woods you can use. But train the kids how to be able to look at a bush and see what's in it. Visualize it. Visualize the finished product. Look at it from different angles and say, yeah, this will work. And then with a stone tool, cut it down. Cut a ring around it, snap it off. And scrape it down with split blades into the shape that you want. And cure it in the fire while you're doing that. Then when you get it all finished, you stick it in hot coals underneath and let it bake for a few minutes till you drive out all the moisture and give it that hardness that it needs. And then scrape all of that charred stuff off. You can overdo it and give them too much and it ruins them. Scrape all that off. Love it. Polish it with your hands. And you can dig a lot of roots with one of those.
And what sort of dimensions do you like for a digging stick?
About as big as my thumb, about that long. It also acts as a throwing stick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
one thing I noticed that young people do, if you don't give them good instruction when they ask for it, and that's another feature of it, is you don't do anything for them until they ask for it. Then they say, well, how do you make this digging stick? How do you get it shaved down? You teach it to them. In the moment, you stop everything else and you do it.
I'll come and get you later, okay?
And
that's a real student-led experience then.
Yeah. When they get out there on the trail, instructors just pile out their gear, give it to all the kids and tell them to package it up, and then they head out, usually about dusk. And they get out in the wilderness, and finally they settle on a place to camp. The trail walkers build their camp, build their shelter, start their fire, prepare their food, and go to bed. Don't say a word to the kids about what to do. They have to watch. Well, most of them sit up around the fire all night just freezing to death or miserable. They don't get enough sleep. And so they get sat around that fire all night and they're kind of frustrated. One of them might come up to if they're lucky, the first day even, one of them might come up to a trail walker and say, how come we freeze to death and you slept just fine? Say, well, you want to know? Well, come over to my camp when you're ready this evening and I'll show you how to do that. So he comes over there and he watches him, studies what he did with his shelter and studies what preparations he made for his bed and that kind of thing. And then by that time 2 or 3 others are over there looking too. Next thing you know, they're all over. And that's the way you teach.
So do you have any priority for what skills or things that you want students to learn?
What's needed in the moment, or what you need to plan to have when you hit that next mountain where you know there's a lot of sago lilies, or up there's a side canyon where you know there's a lot of ignorite that you make knife blades with. You deal with what you have off the land in the given area that you're in, and then make your plan.
That's a different way of thinking.
Vastly different. And I get in trouble with it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But then when they ask me to take them out, and I take them out and illustrate it to them, it makes sense. Changes your whole way of thinking. It's like what you see in a tree. Do you see flowers and leaves, or do you see a digging stick and a bow, or all of it? I think that the Indian people were a lot more basic than we think. They weren't geniuses, but they were ingenious in what they did. They figured things out. But they never figured things out enough to become civilized. You know, they could have done that, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everybody did, I guess, from Adam on, had to figure things out. And this kind of jumpstarts that, gets it going. They have to go back to the basics before they can do anything further. And if they use those basic principles in the designing of what they're doing up here, they'll be far more successful.
So that process of going back to the basics, right?
Yeah.
You talk like the Stone Age experience, or what I might call a basic human experience.
Yeah.
Right? Could you just speak a little bit as to how that sets up that opportunity to be successful, to move back into the civilized world? And
yeah. You have to interview Michaela, my granddaughter, on that. She's here.
Okay.
She's really smart. She's also been really rascally. And she went on Anasazi here a while back. But she's there trying to look up her old instructors.
Mm-hmm.
She came back with the same independence as she always had, and we could not detect one change in her at all, except when she would find herself in a position to be able to tell about an Anasazi experience. And then you knew. That's what, and you just ask her, you know, what did it mean to you? And she's got some really good answers. What I think happens, okay, what's your question again?
How does going back to that Stone Age experience, or as close as we can get to it, how does that set somebody up for success in the modern world?
Well, it's not going to set you up for success in modern corporate world.
Mm-hmm.
The idea behind it is that if you give somebody a basic experience or high adventure, or out of their norm experience, that it's going to make them think better, make them realize that what they're doing may not, analyze what they're doing and maybe think better of it. And there's a lot of truth in that, but there's something even higher. When I was at Outward Bound, I hooked in with a lot of people who had some really interesting philosophies about why we have wilderness, you know, kind of the wilderness movement. And there's always just something left in my mind, back of my mind, that just didn't make sense. Finally, the most eminent man in that industry with Outward Bound came to speak. And he wanted to know why it works. And he asked the questions of all. There was about 40 of us in that room, and we were all around tables and trying to work out things. And he was trying to promote a concept that we should all understand and implement the saying and interpret that saying in our individual ways to make things happen for kids. And he says, we have to provide an experience that says that danger is a way of joy. Jump off the cliff and hope the rope doesn't break. Have that thrill, that fear, whatever it is. And do it deliberately and you know, set up ropes courses and different kinds of challenges, you know, in your mind. It would cause people to think differently. And I can appreciate that as far as it goes. But I never could stomach the idea of danger as a way to joy. I never in my life enjoyed climbing a cliff. I did it because I needed to get to the top. And I looked at that and I thought, you know, how did the ancients deal with that stuff? And I believe that they dealt it in the way that I was thinking about it, and that they did not look at it as a way of joy. They looked at it as a way of preserving their lives and learning how to take care of themselves. So I believe that this experience that you have on the trail with an Anasazi Foundation emphasis and using those principles does the following thing. It takes you back from where you've been. You were born at a certain period of time in the earth, and you grew up to a certain age learning what you learned from your peers, your culture, and that's all you have. A lot of it's really pretty bad stuff. And so with that in mind, how was it for the primitive people? They experienced the same things, only in different ways, and they had ways of dealing with it that were very quick and very basic. And so what would happen is that by taking them back into the Stone Age, where they had to completely go back to almost to a baby experience of using your hands, being able to grab hold of things and hold it in the right position so it'll do what you want it to do, that it is a beginning. It's like a starting over, a birth. And I've had the kids refer that to me from time to time. They say it's like being born again. Of course, we understand that principle. And then once they get that under their belt and they go back to their home environment, they can see things from that point of view that they could see it in his home environment that they couldn't see before. And so from there they made life choices that began to use those principles and make it work. And those life choices become who they are. So, I don't know if that answers that.
That's great. That's great.
The Primitivus Project is made possible by the generous sponsorship of Wingate Wilderness Therapy. Wingate Wilderness Therapy is a premier wilderness therapy program for troubled teens and young adults that offers hope and healing. Designed for both troubled teens and young adults, Wingate offers two distinctly separate wilderness programs addressing the needs of two very different age groups. Wingate operates from the understanding that change comes from the inside out, not the outside in. To learn more about Wingate, visit wingatewilderness-therapy.com or call 1-800-560-1599. Please subscribe to this channel to ensure you don't miss any episodes of the project. New videos will be loaded every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Please like the videos and share them with your friends. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the trail.